Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive. Today we're tackling a big one. Can Disney's magic really last another 100 years?
Interesting question.
From the early days with Mickey all the way to being the huge company they are today.
I think what's really fascinating is how Disney's story, it's not just about fairy tales and theme parks, it kind of mirrors how we all consume entertainment.
Yeah, like how our values have changed and even how storytelling itself might evolve in the future.
Exactly.
Okay, so we all know the basics, right? Started as a small animation studio back in the 20s and now they own like everything, Marvel, Star Wars, you name it.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it.
But how did they do it? Was it just luck or is there like a secret sauce to their success?
Well, one thing that really stands out is how they adapt.
Like how?
Well, they started with hand-drawn animation, right?
Yeah, classic Mickey look.
Then they mastered CGI. And now they're all over streaming. Each step, there were challenges, but they always seem to know what the audience wants, and they aren't afraid to try new things to give it to us.
That's so true. And speaking of knowing what audiences want, their theme parks are legendary. I remember going to Disneyland as a kid, and it really felt like those movies came to life.
Oh, absolutely.
It wasn't just rides, it was the entire experience, you know?
If you think about it, the opening of Disneyland back in '55, that was a game changer. It wasn't just about the rides themselves, it was about creating an immersive world.
Like a whole different reality.
Exactly. Like Main Street USA, they didn't just throw that together. They designed it to feel like like a romanticized version of small-town America.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean.
It had all the details right down to the architecture, and even like the smell of fresh cookies.
Ah, that's how they get you.
Right, and that level of detail, that's how they make those memories. That's how they get you hooked on the brand.
It's genius, really. And they haven't let up, they're still investing tons of money into their parks, adding new lands, new technology, and expanding all over the world.
Yeah, they're definitely not slowing down.
So it's not just a side business for them. The parks really reinforce the brand in a way that movies just can't, I think.
Oh, for sure. And speaking of movies, you can't deny the impact Disney films have had. Think back to when you were a kid. I bet you've got at least one Disney movie that comes to mind.
Oh, definitely.
They really have shaped generations, for better or worse. And, we see movies like Coco, Moana, Encanto. They're showcasing more diverse cultures, which is great, but it makes you wonder.
Like, are they really pushing for real inclusivity? Is it more like surface level?
That's the big question, isn't it? Like, is it enough to avoid stereotypes, or do we need to see a deeper shift?
Yeah, it's one thing to just avoid harmful tropes, but it's another to weave that diversity into the core of the story.
Exactly. Into the characters, the themes, everything.
It's a challenge, for sure. And not just for Disney, but for all of Hollywood, really.
Absolutely. There's been progress, no doubt, but there's still a long way to go. The question is, can they move beyond just checking boxes and actually commit to representing the world as it really is, all its complexity?
Okay, so we've talked about how Disney adapts so well the magic of their theme parks and how they're doing with representation in their films. Now let's talk about one of their biggest acquisitions, Marvel.
Okay, yeah.
The MCU's been a massive success, but there's been some chatter lately.
Oh, yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, like the MCU's had this incredible run, but I think even the biggest fans are starting to feel a little, tired.
Yeah, tired.
Take Captain America 4, Brave New World. It's coming out in 2025, but it's got a 52% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oof, that's not great.
And it's not just that one movie. There's this feeling that the quality might be slipping a little.
I agree. Some of the recent movies have felt a bit repetitive, maybe.
Yeah, like they're using the same formula, same CGI action, but maybe not enough focus on the story or characters.
Yeah, I felt that too. It's like they're just turning out sequels and spin-offs to cash in on the popularity, but not really doing anything new or creative.
Exactly. And audiences are starting to notice. So where do they go from here? How can Marvel bring back that magic, that wonder and excitement that made it such a phenomenon in the first place?
Yeah, how do they recapture that spark?
Well, they've got some interesting things in the works.
Like what?
Thunderbolts is coming out in 2025, and it's about a team of anti-heroes, so that's something different.
Do you think these films can actually revive the franchise? Can they beat the superhero fatigue and deliver something fresh and exciting?
I think they could be a turning point, but to really beat that superhero fatigue, they need to do more than just change the characters, They need fresh stories. Stories that dig deeper, explore new themes, maybe even take some risks with the genre itself.
So basically, they need to shake things up a bit.
Exactly.
Well, if anyone can pull it off, it's Disney. Look at their track record. They went from animation to CGI, conquered streaming with Disney+, And they weren't afraid to buy giants like Marvel and Star Wars. They're not afraid to make bold moves.
They're definitely not afraid to take a chance. But can they keep it up? Can they keep innovating and staying ahead of the game in an industry that changes so quickly?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
It is, and it's a big one.
It really is.
So what do you think? What do you want to see from Disney in the future? How can they stay relevant, stay magical, and appeal to the next generation of fans?
Lots to think about.
Lots to think about.
So we've been talking about how Disney's adapted to the changing entertainment world. But with all these concerns about Marvel, I'm wondering, could this be the end of their reign?
Oh, that's the million-dollar question.
Or is there more to come?
Right. I mean, their legacy is huge. They've got all these iconic characters and stories people love, but they can't just keep doing the same old thing, right?
Yeah, it's tricky. I was actually thinking about this before. It's like trying to relive a favorite childhood memory.
I see what you mean.
You know, going back to a special place, watching an old movie. It's never quite the same, is it? Some things just can't be replicated.
That's so true, and Disney knows this.
They do.
Oh yeah, they're always trying new things, testing the waters, like all those live-action remakes.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
They're playing on that nostalgia, but trying to add a modern twist. Sometimes it works, sometimes, well, not so much.
Yeah, I've seen a few that were great and a few that were not great.
Exactly.
It's a gamble, and it brings us back to Marvel. They had this winning formula for years, but it seems like even the most diehard fans are getting burnt out.
Oh yeah.
Can they really break free from that formula without alienating their core audience?
That's a good question. People love the big battles, the funny dialogue, the interconnected storylines, but how many times can you watch a superhero save the world before it gets old?
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy a good superhero movie, but there's gotta be more to it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It can't just be explosions and CGI all the time.
Totally agree.
And that's where fresh storytelling comes in. And I don't just mean new characters or different parts of the Marvel universe.
What do you mean?
I'm talking about going deeper with the characters we already have, you know? Their motivations, their struggles, their flaws, pushing the boundaries of the genre, taking risks, maybe even challenging the whole idea of what a superhero even is.
You know what? You're right. Look at Guardians of the Galaxy. That was such a success.
Huge.
It was quirky, it was funny, and the characters were so relatable.
They were a bunch of misfits, but you loved them.
Exactly. They had heart. It felt different, you know.
And that's what Marvel needs, more of that risk-taking. They need to experiment, surprise people, tell stories that are both entertaining and thought-provoking. Who knows, maybe they'll surprise themselves in the process.
So as we're nearing the end of part 2 of our deep dive, let's turn things over to you. We've talked about the challenges Disney's facing, balancing nostalgia with innovation, needing fresh storytelling, especially for Marvel. What do you think? What's the key to Disney's continued success?
What kind of stories do you want to see from them? How can they stay relevant, stay magical, appeal to new generations of fans?
Great questions.
So much to consider.
So much to consider.
For the final part of our deep dive into the world of Disney, we've covered a lot, haven't we? From those very first animated films to the massive company they are today. It's been quite the journey, and we talked about all those concerns about Marvel, too. You know, it really seems like they're at a crossroads right now.
They have this incredible legacy, all those beloved characters and stories that people connect with so deeply. But they can't just keep rehashing the same old stuff, right?
Right. If they want to stay relevant, they've got to keep evolving, keep pushing those boundaries of storytelling, and find ways to reach new audiences, but without losing what made them special in the first place. It's a tough balance.
It really is. Like walking a tightrope, almost. And we're not just talking about some company here. Disney's a cultural force. Their stories, they've shaped childhoods, they've influenced values, even sparked imaginations across the world.
It's true. That kind of influence, it comes with a responsibility.
To be mindful of the messages they're sending. To really strive for inclusivity in their stories.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're also a business. They've got to make money. To do that, they need to keep people entertained, coming back for more.
So how do you balance all that? How do they stay true to their vision and make those big hits?
Well, that's the real challenge, isn't it? Finding that sweet spot where creativity and business meet. Creating content that's both meaningful and entertaining. The kind of stuff that connects with a wide audience and pushes the limits of what's possible in storytelling. You know, something like Black Panther.
Oh, such a good example. That was more than just another superhero movie. It was a phenomenon.
It was a celebration of representation, and it really resonated with people.
It did. So to wrap things up, let's leave you with this. Disney's future isn't set. The story's still being written. And the choices they make now, Those will shape the entertainment world for years to come.
Right. Will they play it safe or take risks and explore new ways of storytelling?
Will they put profit before purpose?
Uh-huh.
Or use their power to make a real difference on the world? Something we'll all be watching closely.
It is.
And to all of you deep divers out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep those imaginations going strong. The power of stories is everywhere. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and until next time, stay curious.